Hey everybody. Okay, sorry about that. Is it working? Yes, it is working. Good. Had a little glitch there, but we are back live for the Pearlo Wisdom Show, and I just did a Mitch Marner trade to. I didn't even get past Toronto. I just sent it to Toronto people, and they are losing their minds. Let me tell you that right now. I remember last year at this time after the playoffs, everybody was calling for Mitch Marner to be traded. Oh, he's no good. He's not a playoff performer. All of those sort of things like that. And and I was saying back then that I was saying actually back to the point where they signed Tavares. That in my thinking, anyways, I think they should have traded Marner back then. If you're going to take Tavares at that kind of money, before they even signed him, they could have got a package of just crazy amount of players, and they would have had depth today. And that's nothing to do with what Marner was going to be. He's a 100-point guy. I don't know if he would be a 100-point guy without Matthews, but regardless, he's one of the best wingers in the league. Had nothing to do with that. It more had to do with the fact that if you're going to have a guy like Tavares, then, how do you pay a winger $11.5 million, Tavares 11.5, Matthews 11 in a cap world? But, looking back on it, it's possible that I could have been still incorrect, because if COVID wouldn't have happened, there would have been more money, the cap would have gone up, and they would have had a better chance to sign a bunch of these players, or more players, or had more depth. But I still say that they definitely were going on a very unconventional route to pay that much money all for forwards. I can see you paying like three $11 million contracts, but all for forwards? And then Nylander as well, and now they don't have room for their defense. So they don't have room to pay for their defense, which I thought at the time that they wouldn't have room to pay for their defense. So anyways, if you go over to the Facebook boards and Toronto, like there's a bunch of them that I'm on here. Like I can tell you right now, they're losing their mind. I'll just read them out to you. Okay, let's see some of the things that they said. They basically, I call BS. Like, that was the other thing. I wasn't saying he was going to get traded. The video is not saying that he's going to get traded. Anyways, let's see, what else did they say? Wake up, give your head a shake. He's ours forever. That's Debbie. Absolute stupidity is the idea. Did you watch the video? A lot of people like, oh, Steve Duncan or Pearlo is an idiot. There's a good one. I love those. No reasons for it, nothing, just Pearlo is an idiot. Yeah, most of it is like there's no reasons for it. But I can almost assure you that most of the people saying these comments right now, last year after the playoffs, were the ones saying that Marner should get traded. They don't need Marner. He's not a playoff performer, blah, 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 blah. Chicago, yeah, well, I mean, we've been talking about this for a while. The funny thing with Chicago is they said not to, okay, let's go back. Davidson, I believe, has been now told he's going to be the general manager of Chicago, I believe. I believe they've confirmed that. they're going to keep on going with him. So when he came in, he stated that he had a different philosophy than the previous management. Now, as far as I know, that wasn't directed towards the terrible things that happened in the past or whatever the case may be. It was about what they were going to do with the team. Now, management of the past, the Bowmans, on the ice, the way they made decisions, what they were doing was they were rebuilding without telling their players they were rebuilding. So they knew they didn't think they couldn't trade Tay's contract and they couldn't trade Kane's contract, and they had no movement clauses. And even if they could convince them to waive those contracts, there would be a small pocket of teams they could trade him to. And with the amount of cap space that they took up, it was going to be a very difficult return. And the fact that I believe Tays and Kane both did not want to waive. So basically, they did things that they didn't add. They didn't get better. They purposely made moves that they knew the team was not going to make the playoffs to get the best picks as they possibly can, without ever actually saying we're doing a rebuild here. Until and in doing so, they got Doc and probably other ones that Mitchell, I believe, who isn't playing yet in the NHL for them, but they got a lot of good prospects by doing this. And they took advantage of the fact that Tays and Kane didn't want to waive their no movement clause. So by telling them, okay, we're going to not rebuild then, we're just going to try to win every year, they had the advantage of guys like Doc and them see what looks like when people that have won the cup try to win a cup. So they basically were doing a lot of manipulation until they traded Crawford. Once they traded Crawford, then Jonathan Toews and all of these guys, generally players are easy to pull the wool over their eyes in situations like this. All they know is we come in and we are going to be the best team we can be. They believe in their players and all those sort of things like that. But when they traded Crawford, they couldn't do that anymore. Then Toews was like, I didn't know we were rebuilding. Nobody told me, blah, 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 blah. And I remember at the time I was like, don't you have an agent? Like, your agent didn't come to you and say, dude, it looks like they're rebuilding here. Like, because it's obvious to everybody else that they're not trying to make themselves better or, add at the deadline or anything to make the playoffs. It was obvious to everybody, except, of course, Toews and Kane. And when you're in the situation and you're on a team as a player who just wants to win, quite often you will convince yourself that this team is cup worthy. Like, it's the way they kind of have to look at it. So anyways, that's what happened, and that's how they went about it. So when Davidson said we have a different philosophy, I thought that was going to happen was they were going to be much more transparent. And so far right now, I'm leaning under Maple Leafs game under. I don't think I would ever play an under with the Leafs too often with that Mrazek in that. I'm not saying it's going to be an over, but I probably wouldn't play an under. Okay, so do what you're going to do. I don't like doing that because, first of all, I have people that pay me for that information. And second of all, now you're not going to do it and it's going to be an under for weird reasons. So anyways, now Chicago comes out and says not too long ago that that Jones, Taves, and Kane are off the table. It's Mrazek, John Whitehall. Jones, Kane, and Taves are off the table. In other words, they're untouchable. Now that can, I guess, mean a lot of things. It could be just simply because they're not willing to, as far as they know. My lean here is the reason why he says that is because as far as they know right now, that neither one of them are willing to waive their no trade clauses. That could be it. Could be just that. They're untouchable because they're not willing to waive their no trade clause. They're untouchable because... Oops. So that's possible. I'm going to say that's the case. I don't know. I think the under is pretty likely. I mean, you're talking about Husso versus Shesterkin, and the Rangers have been playing, like, practicing for playoff hockey. They've been playing super tight. But you're right. I mean, St. Louis can bust out on anybody. They've got offense like crazy. But the fact that they're on the road, I don't see them, playing that balls out hockey that you're used to against a Rangers team that can burn you that way. So I think you're going to see a St. Louis team that also is really focused on their defense as well. So, but anyways, where was I? Yeah, I think it's possible that the reason why they say that is because they haven't waived their no trade clause. But now they come out and say, and I can't remember. Oh yeah, I was on. Let me bring up Pro Hockey Rumors. I'll give you the exact quote of what they said. Deadline primer. No. Chicago. There was a Chicago and Blackhawks Flyers trade. Okay. It didn't take long for new Chicago Blackhawks general manager Kyle Davidson. This is from Zach Leach from Pro Hockey Rumors, to make some waves in his now official role. In media availability this afternoon, Davidson made it clear that he sees the Blackhawks as a rebuild. If it is indeed the case, then it may be more than just rentals departing from Chicago in the near future. Of course, the two big names are Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, the face of the franchise. Kane and Toews were linchpins of the dynasty, blah, 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 blah. Their contracts are now not as bad. They can find ways to probably retain or whatever for those contracts. But just a little while ago, Davidson said that both Kane and Toews were untouchable, off the table. But again, that could be because they just wouldn't waive. So now the philosophy is that they're going to rebuild. So for Chicago, where are they going to go now? Yeah. No, it's going to be Mrazek, John Whitehall. It's going to be Mrazek. That there is a question mark as to why Mrazek is in there instead of Campbell. I'm not sure. So, I mean, you got to look at Murphy, look at DeHaan. What kind of rebuild are we talking about here? Are we talking about a scorched down rebuild? Like really scorched down rebuild? I think if they're going to rebuild, I don't know if they have much of a choice but to do a scorched down rebuild. Like really got to trade everybody away. Because first of all, you got to convince Toews and Kane to get traded. There's no use keeping both of those guys there if there's going to be a rebuild. And I don't know, are they going to be stubborn and just say, oh, I want to stay here anyways? Elliot, how you doing, buddy? 13-2 yesterday, Elliot. 13-2. And 18-3 in the last 2 days. I have a play on that. I can't tell you guys. I have a play on that Toronto game. I can't tell you though. Can't tell you it. I can't tell you. I got too many people that have paid for that. Go to bpalpicks.com. We're up 300 units in the past 2 months at bpalpicks.com. So even if you're a great capper like Elliot, what's wrong with just throwing it and knowing that you're going to make 300 units every 2 months? Yeah, just add that to your bankroll and do whatever else you want to do. Such a simple thing. All those sound good, my friend. The only thing about the Nashville one, I can talk about that one, is the public is on it so hard. I'm a little concerned that all of a sudden Seattle's going to get all the penalties go their way tonight. That's the only thing I have with that one. I had Nashville in the morning, and the more I thought about the spot for them, I got off of it. The more I thought about that spot for them, I got off of it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, watch out, Doug, though. I mean, I don't bet the farm on that one. Don't put the farm on the Predators tonight. I'm on it too because you have to. You have to. How do you not go on that? That spot for Nashville should be pummeling Seattle all day long. Seattle is in a place right now where it appears that they're just consigned to the fact that they're going to. I don't see them playing with all that much pride. They know their captain is leaving. Like, I think it's just it's like they're just showing up to get paid and have as much fun as they possibly can, knowing that they were the first team and trying to find some positivity in there. And Nashville is like fighting for a playoff spot in the Central. So, and everybody knows this. It's not like your average capper who hits at 45% knows this. Everybody's going to be on that freaking run. Everybody's going to be on that play. So you can, that shenanigans. No, I think you got it. Oh, I think I don't know how you spell it. Does it matter? I know what you're saying. There could be shenanigans tonight. When you got some very powerful people realizing they're going to lose their shirt, I think some referees could be bought out tonight on that one. Because, watch it. We'll see if it happens. We'll see if it happens. We'll see. Seattle's going to get like every call go their way tonight. If what we're saying is true. Because all the public is all over that game. No, the only way that the Preds lose that game, the Preds 4 days off isn't going to matter to the Preds. 4 days off won't matter anything. They're the hardest working team in the league. The only reason why the Preds are there right now is because of their work, their hard work. Top Shelf Hockey said Leafs want Yandel. Oh my gosh. You know what amazes me about Top Shelf Hockey? I love the guy too. Is that he can say all these things without like chuckling or he says it in a way where he's not like, I don't know how he does it. If the Toronto Maple Leafs get Keith Yandel, I'm sorry. I will absolutely, I will not be able to help but laugh my ass off at that. Well, Doug, you can go down there and say you can say, there's no doubt about it, that spot for the Preds is the Preds all day long, no doubt about it. That's why, don't be surprised if every power play goes to Seattle tonight. Because the bookies are going to lose their shirt tonight. Lose their shirt. I mean, that's such a square play. There's not a single person. I mean, even people that just do casual betting will look at that. It'll pop right out at them. Seattle sucks. They haven't won in forever. I think this is their first game back off a long road trip, and they've had a couple off too. It's just a horrible spot. But yeah, I would agree. It should be Preds all day, no doubt about it, for sure. Preds all day. But back to Chicago again. So it seems like they're playing a lot of sides in Chicago. They're trying to be transparent, but they're also trying to not show their hand at the same time. So I go back to the idea that there's going to be a sit down with Taves and Kane, and they're basically going to tell them, look, we're looking at a scorched down rebuild here. Do you guys really want to be here for this? You're at the late stages of your career. I know you love Chicago, but we'll find a good place for you. You know, we'll try to get as much as back as we can. We'll try a good place for you, but we got nothing here. Let's face it, they got nothing. I don't know, and maybe that's the different philosophy, because it was the Bowmans that went out and got Jones. It was the Bowmans that went out and got Jones. And I have a feeling that Davidson wouldn't have done that. Like, he means scorched earth rebuild here. He means it like fully hardcore. That's his philosophy. Much like what Arizona just did. Except for DeBrincat. I mean, Jones, he's young enough that you probably want to keep. But besides that, rebuild. We're going to see a lot of people exiting Chicago. I like bringing up Chicago. What I've heard, that's why I think I've heard so many players. I've heard Kubalik. I imagine he's 26. He's hasn't really hit it out of the park this year. Tyler Johnson, I don't know if you can do anything with that contract. Yeah, you're probably going to have to keep him. I heard that they were keeping Brandon Hagel because he is young. So anybody that's young like that, and Mackenzie Entwistle, Kirby Doc, Hagel, they're all good. Tays gone, Kubalik gone. Dylan Strome already asked for a trade. Philip Kurashev, DeHaan, Connor Murphy, Jake McCabe, all of them. All of them, bye-bye. KHL, yeah. No, he's sticking around there right now, that's for sure. Yeah, Fleury's gone. I did that Fleury video. I did that Fleury video too. But I'm hearing Minnesota now, and I didn't even have Minnesota in that video. Minnesota actually probably makes the most sense for Fleury out of anybody because of his connection with Guerin. And if Minnesota has any chance at all, any team, Washington, I really do believe should be all over that. Edmonton, if they possibly could. I mean, it all depends on where Fleury wants to go. But basically any team, if you're not really a contender right now and you want to give it a shot, Fleury is the one that you got to get. Talbot is not very good. And I kicked myself. I allowed myself to get talked out of Calgary last night. CL, how you doing, buddy? I allowed myself to get talked out of Calgary last night. I would have been like I had a 20-unit day yesterday. And I got kicked. I allowed myself to get talked out of Calgary. I was on Calgary in the morning because Talbot is just he's just this year he's just not there. Not there. He's back to his old self again. And they're in trouble there. So I could see Fleury to Minnesota for Talbot plus. Yeah, I know. Stupid. It was the spot. You know, the revenge game, blah, 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 blah. I got talked off at Calgary. I admit it. I don't like it, but the Canes didn't ruin my night. No. I had them in a little parlay just in case they won that game, but besides that, I had them in reg in the morning, and the more I looked at the spot, the more I was like, nah, I don't like it. And then when they put Ranta in, yeah, I wasn't shocked that they won it. I wasn't shocked. After looking at the spot that they were in on that, it was an annoying spot for them. It was an annoying spot. Like, if you look at and a team like Carolina can get over those spots, but any team can fall to them too. They're secure in a playoff position. They had they had just played 3 games in 4 nights before that. Just played against Pittsburgh, and it was a huge game against Pittsburgh. And then 2 nights later, they have Detroit and then Washington and Pittsburgh again. It is so easy to overlook Detroit in that spot. So easy. Like, I don't. Sharks equals autophage? Yeah, pretty much. The Sharks are done. Is it 4 games in 6 nights for Toronto tonight? Oh, crap. I didn't even look at that. Wow. Oh, crap. Good thing I didn't pick a side. No, it's 3 games in 4 nights. They had Buffalo now. They were in Washington. Yeah, no, it's 3 games in 4 nights. Still not a great spot, though. A semi-home and home, and then they have 2 days off after that. I still say they got enough juice to team total over this. Still not a great spot, no. I'm not huge. I still think Buffalo has got nothing on defense right now. Anderson has a big night, but Mrazek being in net, I don't care who they're playing. If Mrazek's in net, I'm off the side, especially at what ridiculous spot that is. Like, my gosh. That's a ridiculous juice they're given on that. They got enough juice. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you said it. I did end up putting a small thing on the Oilers there after I thought about it long and hard, but it was only small. It wasn't a great spot for them, but the Flyers will always prove. No, Mrazek's terrible. That's the problem. Mrazek is terrible. The only thing is Buffalo doesn't really have the shooters to cause that much of a problem. So I guess you're right. I guess the over is probably all right. I may go because Buffalo should be able to score 2 or 3 on Mrazek, maybe. No, I don't think they're winning a cup with Jack Campbell. No, you got to time. It could be time that they hit a hot streak. Maybe, because Campbell has a tendency to do that. But what I never like, I'll never back a team that looks for a 1B goaltender to go with their number 1. I'll never back a team that does that because that team is saying, like when they went out and got Mrazek, they were basically saying Campbell is not a playoff goaltender. Because what is this beef? Oh, it's financial. For sure. It's money, man. He wants like a long-term deal from Boston, and Boston is like, no, man, you haven't proved yourself to get a long-term deal. And he's like, well, I'll go somewhere else then. That's it. I'll go somewhere else then. Yeah, Toronto will score tonight. Sure, for sure. For sure. But that's really it. The breast beef with the Bruins is I don't know if he wonders if his development was strained. Look, Sinishin is also down there asking for a trade too. I mean, how many young players have also asked for a trade out of Boston? Sagan, DeBrusk, Hamilton. Their room environment there is very strictish. Or let me put it this way: it's you don't have much leeway in Boston. They don't want partiers; they want family people. They have pretty tight restrictions on what you can do when you're on the road, especially, and all of that kind of stuff like that. So I hear. Hey Brian, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're gonna see lots of shots there. Maybe a really good spot for a shot prop for Ottinger. Sounds pretty lame to you. Exactly. Well, that's what Hamilton and Sagan said. I'm not doing this nonsense. On my free time, I can do whatever the hell I want. I still take care of myself and all of those sort of things like that. But from what I sounds like it's fairly restrictive. And there's but if you're looking at it from Boston's side, it's been effective for them. They want their players to be rink rats. Bergeron, Marchand, all of those guys like that, apparently they are at the rink constantly, and they want people that are dedicated to that extreme, I guess. And if you're not, and apparently like Hamilton, I don't even know why they drafted Hamilton, because Hamilton was known to be a loner. He's not a guy that hung around. Like he wanted his own time. Hey, what? Why was that? Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, hit and block shots, or you're riding the bench. And if you notice, every time Boston does that, like Sagan, look what he did in Dallas. Okay, I wasn't the best, but Hamilton up for Norris trophies here and there. So, yeah, when if DeBrusk leaves, you can almost be rest assured that he'll be better wherever he goes, and they'll end up getting crappy return. Although for Hamilton, they got a crappy return because of who they picked in the draft, not really because of what they got for him. Yeah, well, are you talking about me for the Oilers? Yeah, it was. I mean, I to tell you the honest truth, I didn't even watch that game much. Oh yeah, well, especially when you think about who they picked. What did they get out of that? They got, what was that Hamilton trade? 2 firsts and a second or something like that. Yeah, Sports Fanatic News is in the house. Yeah, they want somebody with a certain mindset. And I mean, looking at it from Boston's perspective, you can't deny that Boston is a team that never seems like they're down. And they win a lot of games just based on pure determination. So, 2 firsts and a second. And one of those first could have been Barzal, it could have been Connor. Then you're not looking at that deal like so bad poorly right now. But I think wasn't the deal DeBrusk too? Like, wasn't that the actual pick that they gave up for Hamilton was DeBrusk? So he's got that hanging over his head too there, and he's just finally just said, no, I'm not that person. I'm not that person. Now, all of those players that we just talked about, all those people we talked about, none of them have won a cup yet either. So, Hamilton, Sagan. Then, of course, you're playing the field on that. It's them against the field. So, percentage-wise, that's probably going to be the case. But was it 1 first and 2 seconds? Let's look at that Dougie Hamilton deal. And then you can look on, and then Calgary ended up trading him too, remember? Because from what I understand, Dougie Hamilton is a very, uh, he's a quirky guy, and he's kind of a loner. Their first round pick in 2015 and 2 second rounders. Yeah, that's right. And I believe that 15 pick Didn't they have 13, 14, and 15? I believe it was DeBrusque. I believe it was actually literally DeBrusque in that deal. So, okay, so, and then for the same reason, he got traded from Calgary. The Boston Bruins may win. There's a report that the reason why he wanted out of the Bruins is because he wouldn't trade for his brother. Huh? I don't know. That sounds like weird. Okay, let's see what. Not only did the Flames give up far and away the best hockey player in the deal, but they also threw in a cheap $20 Frolic, quite possibly the second one. Yeah, see, from the second the Flames acquired Hamilton, all we read about him was that he was a little shyer than everyone, a loner. He was a loner. That's what they were saying in Boston too. He seems talk of his personality didn't subside in Calgary. A bizarre narrative surrounding the Flames keeping his brother Freddie on the roster because he required it so that he could have a friend emerge on Twitter. No one seemed to notice that Freddie Hamilton fit the perfect mold of a 13th forward. I would contend over the past year, Dougie Hamilton has absorbed more spot shots and hate over his seemingly introverted personality than many other NHL players. It sure sounds like Hamilton's personality became an issue for whatever reason and that the locker room was affected by it. Wow. So, anyways, I've heard it over and over again. Yeah, that Hamilton's personality of some kind. I don't get it. It doesn't say clearly, other than he's a loner and he's quirky. Boston will probably lose in the first round. I have to agree with that. All right, thanks for coming in, Sports Fernando. Yeah, I think somebody's going to rob Boston of DeBrusque, and then DeBrusque's going to go somewhere, and he's going to play fantastic. So that's my lean on that. I don't know who it would be. I've heard Vancouver, but for who, I don't know. I mean, what's his value now? He has been playing better. Somehow they've convinced him to play better, probably so he can get out of Boston. And however, Boston's going to have that hanging over them in the trade where people are going to be like apprehensive to give up too much with all this crap that's been going on. He doesn't seem to be backing down on his trade request, so I'm pretty sure Boston will lose in the first round. I mean, anything can happen, but I'm not a huge fan of their team, and they're probably going to go out and hurt themselves even more by getting somebody like JT Miller or something like that. And I imagine DeBrusque would be part of that JT Miller deal, but it would be a lot more than DeBrusque. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. I wouldn't be mortgaging my future if I was Boston right now. I'd be just rolling with what I got and then slowly moving guys out to try to have it be as soft of a rebuild as possible. That's what I'd be doing. He is a cowboy, a loner. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he for sure is a cowboy. Anyway, so I'll see if there's any new stuff coming up here. Okay, Seattle Kraken trade bait. Daily faceoffs, Frank Saravalli, who's becoming one of those big insider guys right now. Wow. Elliot Friedman thinks John Klingberg would be a good fit for Seattle in the offseason as a veteran defenseman. Why? Why would you do that? I don't understand. Like, if you're going to get veterans, John Klingberg, really? A guy, they're talking about John Klingberg going to Seattle in the offseason. Why would you do that? I don't know. I don't know the background about why he wants out of Dallas, but his timing to get out of Dallas is crazy. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. Like, why are you getting so offended with this organization? Why are you getting so offended with this organization because of a contract dispute? If I'm Seattle, I don't want that guy. When you're trying to build a culture in your room, I wouldn't want to take a chance on a guy like that. I can't see. I mean, sure, yeah, you got to find some veterans, but is that a veteran with that kind of character? Not me, man. I don't get it. That kind of possible character. You don't know totally, but I think people do know. But it's a sure red flag to me that a guy wants to trade out of an organization that he's been there for, a little bit before the deadline, who's fighting for a playoff spot, putting that team in a very bad position. Like, why would Seattle want that guy? I don't get it, but we'll see. That's Elliot Friedman bringing up that stuff. So, what else was said about? There's a few things in here. If there is a theme to changes on Frank Savelli's trade target list for daily faceoff, it's young forwards Philippe Zadina, Alexander Tessier, and Kasperi Kapanen. Zadina especially is an interesting one. He jumps directly to number 12 on the list of the most likely pieces to be dealt, despite being on a team that would traditionally be holding young assets. The 22-year-old, he just hasn't been good. So Philippe Zadina might be on the trade block right now. I don't know. I mean, the only way they're doing that is if he has just become a problem. The only thing I've heard about Zadina is he's very hard on himself. He beats himself up a lot. And one of the things that can happen with that is a person that does that is they can say some very, like that when somebody is down on themselves and, being insecure with themselves, which is weird. You wouldn't think an NHL player with that kind of talent would be insecure about themselves. They have a tendency to be grumpy. And that grumpiness or that attitude can permeate through, and maybe Stevie Y has finally said, okay, you know what? It was an experiment that didn't work. Hey, Joe Flyers. Yeah, nailed everything. The only thing I didn't have yesterday was I had San Jose over a little bit, and for some reason I put a flyer on Winnipeg Montreal under, and that sure didn't hit. But everything else was bam, 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 bam. Good day for sure. So Zadina would be an interesting trade because I'm sure somebody would like to give him a shot, but I don't think anybody's going to give up huge for him. I doubt somebody's going to give up a first now, maybe a first, a late first. Maybe some team that, is trying to not rebuild and they're trying to add young players and pretend that they don't have to rebuild, like the Washington Capitals or something like that. May throw them a flyer. I'm sure Arizona, but I don't know if Arizona would want to give anything much up for him. I don't know. Somebody would have to see him. Like, he's got talent, but the kid just doesn't do the things you need to do to be in the NHL. On the ice and maybe even off the ice. I don't know. I can't see it, no. No, nobody's moved out of Calgary that is significant. They'll worry about their off-season contract stuff in the off-season. He's a free agent, right? I know Calgary's got some difficult decisions to make there for sure. I know Calgary's got. Let me just bring up Calgary here for a second. I can't remember. I know they got Goudreau. Mangiapane is an RFA, so they have control with Mangiapane. I'm sure they'd want to sign him up to a long-term contract. They got what? Well, they got 27 million in projected cap space. They'll get him done. Goudreau should get 10, but maybe they'll talk him out of 10. I don't know. Apparently the deal is done. Tkachuk is, yeah, I think Goudreau gets 10 and Tkachuk gets like 8.5 to 9 on a long term. So that's 18.5 of that. Mangiapane's restricted. I would want to get him signed up long term, but I don't know if he would want to do that. He probably wants to gamble on himself to keep on putting up these points to get the big payday in 2 years. And then, Zadorov, that'll be an interesting contract. He's a UFA. But I can't see, they'll find a way to sign Mangiapane, I'm sure. Other people might go like Dubé. Dylan Dubé is what? Oh no, Dylan Dubé is already. Yeah, those are the big three. They have lots of room, but they also got to fill out the rest of the roster out there. But I think they can get it done. But yeah, I don't think so. Why would you? I mean, they're going for a cup. You don't go get to. I don't think they go get Toffoli to trade Mangiapane. I just can't see it. That's up to Chara whether he gets traded or not. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if Chara would want to go back to Canada or something like that. He's not going to move the needle all that much, but I suppose it would be kind of nice to have a couple cups in the room and a 5'6" guy that you just can't overplay Chara at this stage of his career. So, but no, I can't see any way that Mangiapane gets traded. especially at the deadline, though. I think Chicago will be the biggest mover at the deadline. I think there's going to be a lot of people going out. If you want your defenseman, look to Chicago. If you want some depth scoring, look to Chicago. That's going to be the guys that they're going to be the team that grabs as many draft picks as possible this year. And then Vancouver, I don't know which way they're going to go. Bruce Boudreau has them all trying to save JT Miller by getting as close to a playoff spot as possible, which could be a bad thing for them. I don't know. I don't know. He's been really bad lately, Doug Master. Francois has not been very good. Yeah, it looks like the Ducks are going to sign those veteran guys. So I don't know. That team, that team against Boston last night, like they won, but that team has to learn how to fight. They got so many young guys that are still learning how to be NHLers yet. I guess with Manson is you go with what you know, what you got. Like you know what Manson brings. So if you let him go, you have to get another guy like that back. And the biggest problem, the biggest reason they keep Manson and those guys is they don't have anybody to replace them. And the elephant in the room in Anaheim is that their rebuild was never done. Like they still don't have a very good prospect pool in Anaheim. So they're in a very weird spot. Yeah, you got some good guys, but they never did rebuild the way you're supposed to. The way I think you're supposed to, anyways. If I'm going to rebuild, I'm going to do what Stevie Y is doing, and you get your prospect pool and minor leagues so stacked that you can pick and choose your guys and you never run out of them. That's what I would do. And Anaheim is nowhere near that. Like their prospect pool is crap. So they have to keep on talking to a guy like Manson because they don't have anybody to replace him. If they had somebody knocking down the door right now for his spot, he'd be gone for sure, but they don't. So as much as you like to see what Anaheim is doing and Trevor Zegras and all those guys like that, they look like a team that's going to be stuck in the Toronto situation right now. And that is that they're going to have all these great top six and, good top four. But after that, it falls off bad. And when you go in the playoffs and everybody's hurt and you don't have anybody to replace them, you never can truly win. So, yeah, well, he's always maintained that he wants to stay in Chicago. And I think it sounds like Chicago's going to have a big fight on their hands. If they want to deal him, and they may not be able to, he might have to stay there and rebuild. They came out and said they're rebuilding. Kane wants to stay there for the rebuild, then I guess they have no choice but to, because they don't have a choice. Yeah, you watched Edmonton get the shutout last night? I never really watched that game. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I went. Yeah, on Tuesdays and Thursdays I go to the gym. So I didn't watch that game. So I guess we'll get into the games tonight since we got a half an hour. We can talk about the teams, their trade deadline stuff, and all that kind of stuff like Sabres versus the Maple Leafs. Somebody just came out and said 3 games in 4 nights is not a great spot for them. And it's not, but just Buffalo is so bad. But I'm not taking them at that price, no doubt about it. I still say Toronto should win, though. I mean, isn't this Buffalo's first game back off a road trip or something, too? Oh, they've had a couple days off. No, it's not. It's actually a really good spot for Buffalo. They're fairly rested. They're not rusty. Yeah, it's kind of a good spot for Buffalo there. That's the game he's streaming tonight is Toronto Buffalo. Really? Okay. I don't know. Toronto bet. I don't know. Toronto better not be taking them lightly, because Buffalo's going to come right at them tonight. I'm not taking a side here. I don't like Buffalo's goaltending. I don't like Toronto's goaltending. I think Toronto just beat the crap out of them already the last time they played, didn't they? So it's a bit of a revenge game. Let me look that up. I thought they just played each other. Oh, I guess not. Huh. What was I looking at then? Yeah, they played each other on. Oh, no, they play each other again on the 13th. Okay. Sorry. Oh, this is at Toronto though too, right? With fans in the stands, you got to go with Toronto there. Yeah, I think the Wild will get out of their losing streak tomorrow. TJ Brody got hurt. Somebody told you. That's what I mean about team depth there. They lose a defenseman or two, and they're screwed in Toronto. Like, screwed. They don't have anybody to replace. No, Brody's okay. Well, he's going to play anyways. But you got Riley. They're going to be putting Sandini on the top pair. Brody, Hole. Man, that defense is horrible on paper. And then Mrazek in net. I don't know. I'm not touching a side on that. No way. No way would I be touching a side on that game. In fact, I would have maybe first period Buffalo plus 0.5. I could see Buffalo coming out hard here. Something like that. But I have something on the game, so I can't say what it is though. The next game, Toronto's got to do something with their defense. I just did a trade Marner video, and I'm getting absolutely crushed on Toronto boards. Mostly because people don't understand that, for some reason they don't get it, that just because you're trading someone doesn't mean that they're bad. Like, oh no, he's good. Well, you don't trade players because they're bad necessarily. I mean, sometimes that is the case, but most of the time a trade is because you need to get more depth, or you're rebuilding or whatever. It doesn't mean the player is bad. Like they don't get it. But I still say if you look at their prospect pool, and especially with Amirov now going, having what happened to him, unfortunately. If you look at their prospect pool and their minor leagues and stuff like that, this team did not build a team that was ready to be a cup contender. They lose a defenseman, they're screwed. I mean, Santine and Liljegren 2 years from now, yeah, possibly. But now, no. So now you're fishing for defensemen to come and learn how to play with each other before they start on a playoff run. Toronto's 5-6. Where's all those Minnesota guys, by the way? Remember when we were here and I was saying that they're not a contender and they were all getting so mad at me and now they don't show up anymore? They don't come back and say, you're right, they weren't a contender. They're not a contender. They're not a contender. And Toronto, to me, they were playing for each other early in the season. They were playing for each other. And I thought they were going to do some stuff to fill the gaps. But the more I look at it, the more it's not happening. And I was probably running on emotion more than mind when I said that they were a contender back then. Because when you watch a team play for each other like they were earlier in the season, it's like, oh, this team is going to be great. But really, when you step back and look at the roster, look at the fact that Campbell generally doesn't have the consistency needed as a number one goaltender, then plus a second. Yeah, that's like when I was doing the Miller trade and Rangers fans were saying, I was saying that, Schneider plus. And I think wasn't it you, Mark Brand, that said that you'd be willing to give up Schneider in that deal? And he's a tough guy to give up, but you got to really look at your roster and say, is Schneider going to take Trouba out of that top four? If you think so, then I suppose you don't. And then you're going to end up having to trade Trouba. There's only so many spots available. Like, is Schneider going to sit in the Rangers and get paid 5-6 money his whole career? Probably not. But they're trying to trade Lundqvist, Hedel, and Kravtsov to Vancouver for JT Miller. And I'm like, that's not going to do it. I don't know if it was you, Mark Brown. I was talking about JT Miller to the Rangers. Maybe it wasn't you. I did a video on it, and I was basically saying that, it's very possible that Schneider would have to be part of that deal. And they were like, I can say, hey, you know what? I'll pass. Okay, you don't want Miller. Okay. But who do you want then if you don't want Miller? Giroux? Did you hear what the apparent ask for Giroux is? A young player and a prospect for a couple months of Giroux? No, well, he's close though. But in the playoffs, no, probably not. Playoffs are a whole new kettle of fish there. So do you just not bother and say, you know what, we're not going to be a contender if we get Miller or not? The question is, are the Rangers a contender if they get Miller? Yeah, Kopp. Yeah, I wonder if I think they're going to re-sign Kopp. I really do. As long as Kopp wants to stay in Winnipeg, they'll probably re-sign him. Because they just have such a hard time finding players that want to stay in Winnipeg. So if not, then okay. But you don't want him as your second line center, though. I don't know. I think he's a better winger than he is a center too. So he's cheaper. I get why you're saying. I mean, he's a very underrated two-way player for sure. No doubt about it. I think he's going to get overpaid though. Like Coleman. Coleman, maybe even more than Coleman because he put up more points than Coleman. What am I looking for? Where's Winnipeg? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. They might not be able to sign him. I don't know what Winnipeg's going to do now. This year has been a disaster for them. 3.6. He's a UFA, right? He's getting 3.6 now. He put up, 30 points in 48 games. So he's like a 50 to 50 point guy. And, he's fantastic on both two-way player. What's Calgary giving? Coleman's getting 5.5, right? 5. Coleman's getting 5. Coleman is getting 5, and who did he put up to get 5? 31 points in 55 games. Kopp could get a tad more than Coleman. He's better than Ryan Strome. Yeah, I agree. And Ryan Strome's probably going to get more than Kopp. Well, like I said, I did a video. I had Chychrun, Arizona for Chychrun, their first this year. Somebody in the chat for that video said Lawson Krause, and they do need a player like that, no doubt about it. But I'm talking their first next year, so that could be like a number 1 overall. Like Marner is a superstar right now, so you got to get superstar return back. So it's going to be a lot for sure. But Chychrun, the first, and Krause, something like that. They're first this year in Krause, and I would even want more. Like they got to get a player on their roster. Yeah, we're talking about a superstar player here. You have to believe that Chychrun is what a lot of people believe he's going to be if you do that deal. You got to believe that he could have Norris potential down the road. And then they also have, they might be able to get another prospect on top of that. And then they would have like $6 million to play around with to add on to another player on their offense to fill in their top 6 or another winger to play up on that top line. Yeah, I know. And it's hard to trade Marner. I think it's stupid. I hate the fact that they would have to do that. But the Tavares move almost forces their hand to do something like this. That's a sad thing. I never liked the Tavares move. I still don't like the Tavares move. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. If it wasn't for COVID, it might have worked out. But it turns out it didn't. I'll be right back, guys. Just wait. Sorry about that. Yeah, it would be an interesting trade. I also had him going to. Oh, let's see if I can remember here. Where did I have him going to? Colorado was a big one. That would be just stupid. That would be just stupid, and they could do it. That was a crazy thing. Talk about a team who built their depth to the point where they can be an actual contender. Colorado, and then do a deal like that, which would put them like right over the top. It would be insane. Yeah, it wasn't Buffalo, but right, like it's unlikely because it's in the Eastern Conference, but they've got the cap room and they could give a whole crap load back. Who else did I have there? Did I have Detroit? Anaheim was one. LA. LA's in almost everything right now because they're in that place. Apparently, they're going to sign Hurdle. I don't know. I don't know why Hurdle would want to stay there, to tell you the honest truth. And if Entwistle's out of Chicago, I'm all over that. You want to talk about a guy. I don't know why in the world would Chicago not trade. Why in the world would Chicago trade Entwistle? I don't get that. You want a guy for a rebuild. That is a guy you want, man. I'll be all over that. I'd be on the phone like yesterday. I would love the Oilers to pick up Entwistle. That'd be freaking amazing. I would give up a first for Entwistle, honestly. A late first. I don't know who have they not watched Entwistle play? Like, why would he want? Only way is maybe behind the scenes, he wants to go. And I guess there could be a lot of good reasons for that, I suppose, because of the whole situation with that organization and stuff. But he has played absolutely fantastic. Big 6'3". His offensive upside, he probably doesn't have the hugest offensive upside, but he's getting a lot out of his frame already at 22. 11 points in 38 games ain't bad. However, he may not play that many minutes somewhere else. But I love his game, and he's going to play in the league for a long time. At the very least, he looks like a third-line winger to me. And, teams are always looking for big, strong wingers like that can play. And he's only 22 years old. Why would Chicago make that deal? Yeah, I mean, I'm still suspect of their defense. We'll see. I want to wait till the emotion wears off of having this new coach and all that stuff like that, and see what happens there first before I make up my mind on whether that is the case or not. I still have my question. I still am not confident in that defense on paper. That defense on paper does not look good to me. And, if you look at the games, they're getting outshot a lot still. Koskinen has found a way to, hey, Lauren, unfortunately, I got to be going here in the next little bit, but I think the Leafs will win tonight, yeah. It was a tough spot. I don't know if you were in here yesterday, Bill, but we were pretty much not very. It was a tough spot for Carolina. I wouldn't call it embarrassing. It was a tough spot. And if it was any other team, like if it was Tampa or Washington or regular season teams that I don't know, just aren't mentally tough in the regular season, I would have been all over Detroit last night. I thought Carolina might be able to hold it together. It was just a bad spot. They just played Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. They had huge games. And then they were going to have two more huge games coming up. And stuck in the middle of it is this little who gives a shit Detroit game. So That's always a tough spot. And the fact that they got a tie, they got a point out of it. But I don't know. Teams always seem to fall to these spots. Doesn't even matter if they're mentally strong teams like Carolina, it seems. They seem to fall to those spots on a regular basis. Yeah, well, yeah, I never watched that game, but it was weird. They were up 4-1. Then Montreal came back. The good thing for Montreal is that they are showing some heart and pushback. Yeah, it's a it's such an easy spot for a team to undervalue a team. It's all an emotional thing. Like, look at that spot again for Carolina. They got Washington, Pittsburgh coming up. Now you got to put yourself in the place of their situation. Washington and Pittsburgh are huge games. You're going to be playing Crosby. You got young players there. It's in the back of their mind that they're going to be playing Crosby, Ovechkin, especially the young players on Carolina. You know, coming up here soon. And before that, they just played. Where was it? They played the Oilers with McDavid. And now you're playing Detroit. It's so easy to just overlook that game. New coach and organization from Ducharme? What do you mean? Yeah, they should be. They have a Norris potential defenseman. Uh, Raymond looks like he could be like a Panarin-ish type guy. That was what they predicted that Raymond could develop into, was like a Panarin type winger. And of course you got Larkin, and then Bertuzzi gets undervalued on that roster. He's fantastic. So yeah, and there's still got lots of draft picks coming up, lots of prospects in the prospect pool. Add another one this year. It'd probably be a middle pick or something like that, but still lots to, and I think they got second rounders, and I think this year Detroit will start looking at maybe adding more significant free agents, not just guys like Letty, and to show guys how to be professionals and all that stuff like that, but actually significant free agents. Oh, you needed a new coach. Oh yeah, from Ducharme. Yeah, Ducharme looked like he kind of lost. He was a new rookie coach, and it's one thing like with rookie coaches, you can get like really rah, and they're usually great motivators, and Ducharme looked like he was. But when everything hits the fan, it's totally different, especially when you're dealing with NHL players and stuff like that. Like, it's a whole learning curve. And Ducharme had a learning curve, and it just didn't work out. And what St. Louis comes in, and he's teaching pride. No, there wasn't really much. I don't think there was a player that played with more pride than St. Louis. But anyways, guys, I gotta go, man. Sorry, I will not be on tomorrow. No, I don't see it. You'd have to like steal it from them. McLeod is fantastic. I don't even think maybe they don't value McLeod as much as they should. He's uh, nothing would surprise me. Let's put it that way. Yeah, there's Sherrod's going to get a first and a prospect, and I wouldn't do it, but somebody's going to do it. I'm hearing St. Louis, and Petrie's playing a lot better. That's going to be a tougher trade. They're going to have to probably retain some salary and get a player back and stuff like that. But sorry, guys, I gotta go. I won't be here tomorrow. I got a appointment that I got to take care of. I will be back on Friday about this time, so be watching out. But I got to take my son somewhere right now. I had a header. See you later, everybody. That's my full 42. Have a great day, Kate. Bye.